You can get into debt from quite literally anything now. And I wasn't sure if this topic was worth talking about until I saw recent headlines about DoorDash debt. Yes, that's correct. Klarna, a buy now pay later service, has partnered up with DoorDash, the food delivery company, to allow customers to pay for their meals with installment loans. Although this might seem like a harmless way to afford items that would otherwise be out of reach, the way these companies profit and the ever-growing consumer debt paint a grim picture of what people believe they can afford and why they are so drawn to certain purchases. So let's get into the debt crisis in America, the pros and cons of the buy now pay later model, and what this tells us about the
political and economic state of the world right now.
Can we just get the most obvious reason most people go into debt out of the way first? Because financial literacy isn't something that's taught, it's learned. Your upbringing shapes your beliefs about money, influencing how much you think you should or shouldn't spend, and often spending habits have little to do with income. Some people earning next to nothing still splurge on things they can't afford, while others with millions cling to cheap, low-quality purchases just to save a few bucks. Much of this stems from how we saw our parents manage their money, but the era we grow up in also plays a big role. Spending habits reflect both our values and our expectations for the future, and that leads us to the inevitable rise of buy now, pay later. But how did we even get here in the first place? Well, loans have been around for centuries, with long-term secured loans like mortgages and auto loans being the most common. These loans require collateral, are typically repaid over periods ranging from 3 to 30 years, and can lead to repossession or foreclosure if payments are missed. However, starting around the mid-19th century, short-term unsecured loans gained popularity, especially in the United States. While they often require a good credit score, these loans have shorter repayment periods and were historically used for larger one-time purchases like appliances, mattresses, and furniture. And this shift in lending laid the foundation for modern-day consumer credit. By the way, let's talk about this incredible chair that I'm sitting in, which is from today's sponsor, Sihoo. The Sihoo Doro C300 is one of the most unique and comfortable office chairs in the game at its price point. It has a really nice backrest that tilts pretty far back, 4D armrests that you can change depending on where arm placement feels most comfortable, and the coolest feature is their self-adaptive lumbar support. I think most of us by now know how important a good sitting posture is for your health. It's been shown to reduce stress on the spine and joints and helps reduce fatigue throughout the day too. With the Doro C300's lumbar tracking system, it adjusts the lumbar support depending on how you're sitting on it. So if you move up in your seat, it'll move up with you. And if you move down, the lumbar support starts to move down too. If you want to improve your posture, reduce your back pain, and finally get rid of that crappy office chair or bar stool chair you might be using at your desk, then the Sihoo C300 Doro is definitely worth picking up. To go check it out, you can use the first link in my description. You click on that and you will get a discount as well when you use my special link. So go check it out. Modern consumer credit, as in signing up for a card with a spending limit that lets us borrow money we don't necessarily have, is a relatively new concept, only emerging in the 1950s. And even though we've had a few decades to work out the kinks, many of us still haven't really figured it out yet.
So, my husband and I are $60,000 in debt.
Hi there. Let's talk about this number right here. This is how much debt I have.
All right, you are upside down big time.
Man, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Only $100,000, right?
Exactly.
I have student loans that total just over $1 million.
You're kidding me.
As of 2024, total US credit card debt has surpassed $1.1 trillion, an all-time high. The average American carries a credit card balance of over $6,000, and interest rates are higher than ever, with many cards charging 20 to 30% APR. And yet, people continue swiping. Why? Well, for starters, credit cards don't exactly feel like real money. Behavioral economists call this the pain of paying. When you hand over cash, you physically feel the loss, but when you use a card, that pain is delayed, making it easier to overspend. A study conducted by the MIT Management School found that credit cards serve to, quote, step on the gas by putting costs out of mind regardless of the price of the product. More specifically, the study revealed that credit cards drive greater purchasing by sensitizing reward networks in the brain, involving the same dopaminergic reward center that is exploited by addictive drugs like cocaine and amphetamines. And then there's the psychological trap of minimum payments. Credit card companies encourage you to pay the bare minimum each month, but doing so means you could take decades to pay off even a small balance due to compounding interests. A $1,000 purchase, if only paid in minimums, can turn into $2,500 or more over time. But we know people don't just rack up debt because they're reckless or bad with money. Many Americans use credit cards just to cover basic living expenses now. I've talked about this a lot, and frankly, I'm gonna keep talking about it because it's at the root of most of our issues, but wages have stagnated while productivity, the cost of living, housing, groceries, healthcare, keeps climbing. Over 60% of credit card holders in the US carry a balance from month to month. Not necessarily because they're splurging on luxury items, although some of them are genuinely doing that, but because they don't have enough cash flow to pay for necessities outright. This growing disconnect between future assets like housing and the reality of how increasingly out of reach these assets are is really important because it sets the stage for the next big development in our spending habits: the rise of buy now, pay later services. This is where people truly begin spending money they don't have. Imagine you're shopping online for something you probably don't need but definitely want, like that pair of Nikes or that metal butt flusher from Temu. You get to checkout, and instead of seeing that painful $200 total, you're hit with an offer. Just 4 easy payments of $50 interest-free. Sounds great, right? You get what you want now, but don't have to feel the full weight of the purchase immediately. That's basically what Buy Now, Pay Later, or BNPL for short, is. It's a short-term loan that lets you break up a purchase into smaller, more manageable chunks. Now, unlike traditional loans, such as car financing or mortgage applications, companies like Klarna, Afterpay, and Affirm perform only a soft credit check, require no minimum credit score, and offer instant approvals within seconds. No paperwork, no long application process, just an instant yes to whatever you're buying. Instant. Does that word ring a bell regarding a certain modern issue? Because it does for me, and that's instant gratification. Buy now, pay later is the perfect scheme for companies who want to exploit people's impulsive buying decisions. And who is most susceptible to impulsivity? Young people, of course. A Bankrate survey found that 51% of Gen Z and 55% of millennials have used a buy now, pay later service. Just looking at that data alone, it might seem like being younger doesn't necessarily make you more impulsive since millennials are older than Gen Z, but Bankrate took more usage statistics into their analysis. Compared to 18% of millennials, 24% of Gen Z reported regretting a purchase. Similarly, while 21% of millennials admitted to missing a payment, that number rose to 24% for Gen Z. Now, there's a couple ways that these buy now, pay later services make money. The first and less insidious way is through merchant fees. Merchants pay BNPL companies a percentage of each sale, usually like 2 to 8% for offering the service. The reason they do this is because BNPL has been shown to boost sales and conversion rates, so retailers are willing to pay higher fees than traditional credit card processing. But the second way, and this is the way that many young people don't yet understand the consequences of, are consumer interest and late fees. When a BNPL says you can pay in installments interest-free, what they really mean is interest-free up to a point. Most BNPL services charge late fees that can add up quickly over time, and they will damage your credit score. I'm sure there's a subset of people who are responsible when using these services. There's probably a group of people watching this video right now who only have like 1 to 2 installments at a time. It just helps them spread out their payments so that they can actually afford these things and they pay on time. But I can only imagine how many young people lacking financial literacy or proper saving habits see BNPL as a way to buy things they can't actually afford at what feels like a massive discount, when in reality it only is going to cost them more in the long run due to interest, late fees, and falling into a cycle of debt. In the same year Klarna's revenue increased by 24%, Americans' credit card defaults, aka when a cardholder fails to make payments for an extended time period, soared to a 14-year high. This suggests that BNPL isn't replacing traditional credit, it's stacking on top of it, creating a false sense of affordability while pushing more people into financial distress. And this is where we can start talking about what this says about American culture as a whole. I'll let economic commentator Kyla Scanlon begin this part of the discussion because she puts it very well.
We have a gambling economy. We have meme coins, sports betting. We love a good vice in the United States. And we can do it completely frictionless. Like, we don't even have to put on pants. Just app it to you and then worry about everything else later. And so the entire attention economy is really about hooking people, making them addicted, and then monetizing that in small increments.
BNPL thrives on one simple human flaw. We suck at thinking long term. It tricks your brain into feeling like you're spending less than you actually are, and now that has extended into products that aren't things we need at all. Why would someone buy Nike sneakers or a Gucci belt if they can't afford them? Because in a society that monetizes everything, the status these items confer often outweighs their actual utility. I've discussed this in more depth in my Gen Z purpose video, but it's worth repeating. Many of our purchases are valued more for the status they represent than for their functionality. There's almost no difference in quality between a decent $20 pair of off-brand sunglasses and a $120 pair of Ray-Bans. But those Ray-Bans send a message. They suggest you have wealth you don't actually possess and convey a certain image. Instead of saving money for more meaningful practical assets, more people are focusing on how they're perceived, prioritizing external validation over developing real character, integrity, and valuable skills. But to say that only explains the problem would be oversimplified. We need to go deeper. We can't avoid the fact that for Gen Z and younger generations, there's a growing sense of hopelessness about the future. Many can't afford traditional markers of success, things like buying a house or building wealth, and instead, they're left to question the value of even planning for the future. When you can't see yourself owning a home or achieving long-term stability, it's hard to justify planning for a future that feels so out of reach. This sense of uncertainty drives people to focus on what they can have right now, things that offer instant gratification. Why think about the future when the present feels so uncertain and so unsustainable? The result is a shift towards spending on things that give immediate satisfaction, even if they come with a big price tag or no lasting value. With no clear vision of a secure or prosperous future, spending today becomes more of a coping mechanism than an investment in the future. It's not just about materialism or status, it's about seeking meaning in a world that feels increasingly devoid of long-term possibilities. And maybe, just maybe, that's what these big corporations designed America to be around, so you keep buying things you don't need and never actually own assets so that you can stay poor forever, so you can keep buying stuff so you can fuel the consumer economy. So instead of considering the long-term consequences of purchases, younger generations are choosing the instant gratifications of the now because they feel like they'll never get a fair shot in the future. But college is supposed to offer a way out of this, right? It's marketed as a path to financial security where a degree is the ticket to a better paying job and a stable future. On average, people with a bachelor's degree earn 67% more than those with just a high school diploma, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Yet for many, the reality is that a degree comes with a crippling cost, burying you in debt before you can even enjoy the rewards of your education. The average cost of tuition for the 2023-2024 academic year was about $10,560 for in-state students at public colleges and $38,000 for out-of-state students at public colleges. Factoring in room, board, and other expenses, the total cost can easily exceed $25,000 to $50,000 per year. With student loan debt in the US surpassing $1.7 trillion and the average borrower owning $37,000, higher education, instead of offering a bridge to financial stability, has become a roadblock, doing the very thing it was supposed to help avoid, sinking young people into crippling debt. Now, here many people are, stuck in a cycle where they're being told they need to spend to live up to a certain living standard while being pushed into debt just to make ends meet. The question then becomes, what can you do? Do you just adopt a doomer mindset and think to yourself, if I can't pay it off before I die, I might as well just keep spending? No. While there's loads of stories of people piling up inescapable debt, I could show you just as many stories of people who paid off hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt once they took responsibility for it and made a plan of action. No matter how out of reach a financially stable future might seem, there's always some little thing you can do to start moving in that direction. YouTube is full of incredible financial literacy channels that teach you how to both save better and increase your salary. One of my favorites is Ramit Sethi's channel and his book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. The title of that book is corny as hell, but it's actually really valuable. For those who haven't started building a good credit score, you gotta start doing that as soon as possible. I did not qualify for a regular credit card when I first tried to apply for one, but I did qualify for a secured credit card. And that's basically when you load up money to the card. It's a low amount of money and you spend a little bit of that each month and show them that you're actually responsible with it. Start with that. Start building your credit because it's so important in regards to how much you're paying for a mortgage or like financing a car and actually getting approved for rent in apartments. It also might seem obvious, but from a cultural level, you need to start shifting your focus from what you want right now to what will truly benefit you in the long run. That might mean cutting back on impulsive buys, saying no to the allure of instant gratification, and asking yourself what purchases will actually contribute to your well-being, skills, and future goals. But let's be clear, real systemic change is needed. We need financial education starting early that teaches not just how to manage money, but how to challenge the financial systems that profit off our ignorance. We need reforms in higher education that make college more accessible without throwing us into a debt pit with lower tuition costs and reasonable loan repayment plans. And we need to hold companies accountable, especially the ones that profit off of our inability to save or plan. Buy now, pay later services and predatory lending practices shouldn't be allowed to thrive off of our desperation, but they will so long as things stay overpriced and people remain financially illiterate. So this isn't just about individual financial decisions. It's about the system we live in, which is rigged against a lot of us and teaches us to value status over substance. As Professor Kodakius Black once said, they don't like to see you winning. Well, fuck that. Become so rebellious in a world that wants to suck all the joy and meaning out of you and funnel it to the big corporations by becoming the very thing they hate. A well-educated, financially literate person who spends only when they think something is going to bring genuine, lasting fulfillment to their life. That's how the culture starts to change, and that's how we stop these companies from winning, at least as much as we can stop them because, well, they're fucking huge and they control a lot of stuff. Would love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like my subscription economy video. You can click on it right here. It really talks about how many subscriptions we're now renting, basically, and how we don't actually own a lot of the things that we think we do now. So check that out, and goodbye.